Alright guys, Tactical here back again today. Hope you're all enjoying your Friday and looking forward to the weekend. Today I wanted to talk about this story that broke yesterday of Enable no longer being on the starting lineup for the Seattle Surge. It looks like he has been benched. The player coming in is either Panda or Proto. I would imagine it's going to be Panda for a couple of reasons I'll go into in this video over the coming minutes. Was this the right move by Seattle? Was this too early in the season to be able to tell whether this is going to be the correct move in the long run? In my opinion, it's a pretty good decision. I'm going to go into some of the reasons why, and I'm sure you guys will leave your thoughts down in the comment section below as well. This was a very interesting team when it first formed. The fact they're making a change this early doesn't overly surprise me. I actually said even before Minnesota event that if there was one team that people were expecting kind of a decent amount of that I didn't think would live up to it, that was going to be Seattle for me. And it turns out I think that has pretty much been the case on the whole. They had a really old roster. They still do have a really old roster, but bringing in either Panda or Proto does bring in some more young talent, right? And really, since the Dynasty OpTic teams, it's been difficult to see a team that's done incredibly well that doesn't have a mix of, veteran leadership and younger talent as well, especially the way the game is played nowadays. But those are some thoughts we'll go into in coming minutes here. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Audio should be synced up a little bit better today with any luck. So Enable pretty much says on stream, the clip isn't particularly interesting. He just says, look, I've been dropped from the main team. I've been benched at least from the main squad. The team is going to be starting to scrim very, very soon. So the first thing to look at here, was Enable the right player to go onto the bench from this starting lineup? So of course the team is Octane, you've got Apathy, you've got Slacked, you've got the three wings Karma, and then you've got Enable. So first of all, let's look at the players that pretty much undroppable. Octane obviously pretty undroppable at the current time. We'll have a look into some stats that we had at London, because at London they played 3 series, in Minnesota they played 2, so I'm going to kind of lean the way of London in terms of the statistical counts, but regardless, Octane has been an unbelievable player. The rest of the guys on the team have been, struggling to hit the 1 KD kind of mark. Of course, look, Octane's the main assault rifle, Apathy is the main fast-paced SMG player on that team, and the rest of the guys, this is where, the issues with the roles, I think, have really come into play. And I'm surprised they didn't expect this really from the start of the season, given that Karma, Enable, and Slacked have pretty much played the same role of, I guess, the gap filler, you could call it, in previous teams in the past. Karma on OpTic Gaming for the last couple of years, Slacked on Luminosity Gaming for the last 3 or so years, and Enable, of course, done it on various teams, Team Caliber, but also, of course, on that very successful 100 Thieves lineup as well in the Black Ops 4 season. They've always kind of played a similar role in that, they're not slaying heavily. At least this is in recent times. Of course, back in the day, Karma in Black Ops 2, he was a phenomenal slayer. And that's why, if you're gonna make a change on the team, Octane is obviously, there's no way you're getting rid of him, right? Apathy, in my opinion, you can't get rid of. He's your main SMG player. He's a really aggressive player, veteran capabilities as well. We always know that he turns up towards the end of the year towards, the championships and world championships, of course, as it was formerly known. I'm not sure exactly that they're going to call it that this year. But there's really no other player on the team that exactly plays this kind of role, so you need him as the main SMG, you need Octane as the main assault rifle. I think that's perfectly reasonable. Then you've got to figure out where the other 3 guys come into play, and if there was one of the 3 remaining players, Karma, Enable, or Slacked, that I trusted most to be a slaying partner up there with Octane and with Apathy, it was going to be Karma, to be honest. Now, yes, he might be in the latter half of his career in terms of his best days are probably behind him, but look, you remember last season, the OpTic Gaming team, when Dashy couldn't make it out due to visa issues, he stepped in and really had a great slaying performance. Well, I still think there's that essence of vintage Karma about this player. So, in my opinion, Octane, Karma, and Apathy, those are the 3 guys that have to stay. If you want to make a change, which I think is fair enough. We'll have a look at their results in a second. They went 0-2 at the opening weekend in Minnesota, then they went 1-2 this weekend. They came top 6 of the event. Not ideal by any means. The first weekend, their Search and Destroy was poor. In fact, let's just have a look through some of these results right now. So this was their first weekend of results. Seattle, Florida, they lose in a 3-2 fashion. Seattle, Toronto, they lose in a 3-2 fashion. Their respawn was okay, but their S&D really did let them down. And then these are the matches that they had at the London event, of course. So, Dallas, Seattle Surge, really close maps, but they lose out in the end in a 3-0 fashion. Seattle Surge Gorillas, they do end up clutching up in a Game 5 round 11, but not comfortable by any means. And then against the Empire, they lose again 3-1. So a 6-1 loss map count against the Dallas Empire. Some of these results don't look too terrible on paper. But at the end of the day, if you're struggling to get past Toronto, losing to them, struggling to get past Florida, losing to them, and getting pretty much decimated over the course of a couple of series by the Dallas Empire, you're not going to be a championship contending team. Like, when I look at this squad, I don't think there's any chance that these 5 players win a championship throughout the season. It's possible they could win one. There's a lot of them on offer, but I don't really think this is, getting anywhere close to Chicago, Atlanta, and Empire as they sit at the current standings right now. So it's very understandable they want to make a change. I think that is very much fair enough. Of course, the players they decide to get in is really the key question. So if it's down to Slacked or Enable, which one you want to get rid of, in my opinion, they've made the right call here. A lot of you might say Slacked, but I'm looking at it from a slightly different perspective. In my opinion, Slacked has been a pretty underrated player throughout his career. He's filled the gaps, but honestly, when needed to, he's put up some great numbers, and he's done that for a number of years. Also, a key thing to take into account right now is the meta we have right now. Typically, if it's an assault rifle kind of orientated meta where you've got maybe 3 ARs, 2 SMGs, I would probably favour Enable in that sense, given that you'd have Kambo, who tends to prefer an assault rifle, Octane of course on an AR, and Enable also tends to prefer an assault rifle. Slacked tends to prefer the SMG. So that's an indication to me that, I want this team to be more SMG heavy if I'm a Seattle Surgeon manager or whatever, to try and compete with some of the quicker teams like Chicago, like Atlanta FaZe, of course, that we have right now, dominating the leaderboards on all accounts. You definitely need some more pace in the team. You definitely need some, in an ideal world, younger, faster SMG players. That's definitely the type of player you want to get in the squad. And Enable, kind of, he's never been so good with an SMG. In my opinion, if you're going to choose one between Slacked and Enable, it's Enable you get rid of on that count. And then you have the other thing to consider, and the thing that he brought to the 100 Thieves team last year was kind of a mediation type of role. But that's not necessarily a role that's needed when you come into a squad full of veteran players. Like on that 100 Thieves team last year, you had Slasher and Octane, big characters. Then you had Kenny, and who else am I forgetting from the team? You had Priester, of course, right? So there was definitely some arguments that were going to happen there between Kenny, Slasher, and Octane as well, and these guys. It was going to be difficult to keep a lid on things. And Enable did a great job providing that, as well as being a pretty good player. In this game, he's also a real liability in Search and Destroy. It seems on Boots on the Ground titles, like in World War II, he was considered the worst S&D player in the league for all accounts. And in this game, he hasn't exactly started off on a great footing either. Black Ops 4, I guess, a little bit different in terms of the way that game played from a Search and Destroy standpoint. With those reasons considered, I think Slacked is a preferred guy to keep over Enable if you're going to make a change. So let's say you take Enable out. First of all, I think this is a good time to make the change. You're 2 events in, you're not playing the next event in Atlanta. The next time you're playing is at the end of March or something like that, or at least middle March in Los Angeles, that next home series event. So you have a whole month to get practice with the new squad. It looks to me like they're going to be bringing in Panda, intriguingly, just anecdotally, but in the casino on the Sunday night, Monday morning, after the London event, Casey Panda was there chatting with Octane and Joey Nubsy and these guys over at the Seattle team. So definitely, I was like, is there something going on here? Maybe that is the case. Proto's also another guy to consider. When I think of Panda, though, so look, first of all, if you were going to have an ideal player you replace for Simp, it's probably a place for Enable, it's probably Simp, right, or something like that. A really fast-paced, aggressive SMG that can match with Apathy at the front end of the team. Then you've got Slacked just behind, filling a kind of gap-filling role. Then you've got Karma, maybe a slightly slower player once again, who can pull out an assault rifle if needed, but also can slay pretty heavy with the SMG. And then you've got Octane behind the whole lot in terms of how you want to structure your team in terms of pace. You need a fast-paced guy to be right up there with Apathy, in my opinion. Enable couldn't be that guy for my money. Proto's a guy that could fill that role, right? But, Proto is a really interesting player. Sometimes you'll watch this guy play and you'll think, God damn, this guy is unbelievably talented. He's dominating the game. Sometimes this guy just goes off. But he's a very, very inconsistent player. And that's the reason why I just can't see him being a part of a championship winning squad. Can he be that consistent for an entire tournament to win one? Especially as an aggressive SMG player when your role is really, really important to make space for the rest of your team. But also if you're really, really good and you get a lot of kills, that is super impactful because you're not expected to. Sometimes you will, but a lot of the times you'll have a really tough time of things. Panda then is the safer pick. And when I think of Panda, I think of GodRx. And I'm sure a lot of you guys maybe think similarly. The Ghost Gaming team back in World War II, it was Parasite, Panda, GodRx, Lacefield, I think was the squad for a time. When GodRx would go off, Panda maybe had a quiet game. GodRx, had a quiet game, Panda went off, right? And those were kind of the duo that we talked about back in the day. And GodRx, of course, now in the Black Ops 4 season, such a talented player towards the end. Now he's on Minnesota putting up big numbers. It does make me think that Panda's got a lot of potential to be in a similar situation. And it'd be nice to see at least him to get a chance here to prove something. I think he's 22, so he's, as you can see on the right hand side of the screen, or maybe you can't quite see it, but regardless, so he's a little bit younger than some of the other guys on the team, but he's still not exactly a complete young gun. But it would be nice to see him get a shot here for this next event. But we do need him to be a really fast-paced player. You know, I might be misremembering, but I thought back in the day in World War II, he used to use an assault rifle more than he did an SMG. So I'd be intrigued to see how they set up their dynamics. Maybe they'll decide to have Slacked and Apathy being those super aggressive players and have Panda slightly behind them. In my opinion, that's not the recipe for success. You should be having a player in an ideal world that can partner up with Apathy right at the very front. And maybe if Panda or Proto doesn't work out, that's when you start delving into the amateur pit. Either some of the Singularity guys, maybe, you know, Immigrant Chain I was thinking, but he's not really a great fit for that role. But there are some other players like Detain on that team or Bids that might work in that kind of role as well. And then you've got some, you know, there's plenty of other players to consider in the North American side of things as well, if you want to get a really fast-paced SMG in, which is what I'd be trying to do. And Proto could be that guy. Yeah, maybe it's worth a shot, but he just seems too inconsistent for me to be a championship winning player. But maybe that's an unfair opinion. This is what it looked like at London then. So the Royal Ravens home series, like Octane gets an 84, 1.44 in hardpoint, poor search and destroy, but dominates domination as well. Yeah, that was a fantastic pun rab. Apathy, decent stats as well. Karma, not the best stats, but significantly better than Slacked and Enable down here. In terms of worst performers, you know, I guess overall it is Enable, but Slacked and Enable also not putting up, you know, great numbers between them. But, you know, the search and destroy KD of 0.67 on Enable, you know that Octane's is going to bounce back up for a 0.73. Enable, this is kind of like, this is pretty comfortable, pretty comfortable 2 in 3 average for Enable, to be honest. For me, that makes sense as the move. Is it going to be the right player coming in, though? Personally, I can't see Panda completely reinvigorating this team. I think they do need another player that, you know, probably is slightly superior in quality. We'll just have to see how good Panda turns out, though, because if you'd have brought GodRx into this team last season, let's say last season this was the team and you're bringing GodRx, and I'm like, you know, damn, is this really going to make that big of a difference? However, right now I look at Minnesota and I'm like, GodRx is one of the key aspects of that team. Well, fact of the matter is, you know, 3 out of the 4 of these guys, Slacked, Apathy, and Karma, that are still on the team are in, you know, they're in the decline, I guess, of their career in terms of how good they are as players. I would imagine, definitely on the latter end of things, you need some young blood coming up into the team to keep things reinvigorated and to keep people enthralled, and honestly, to give Octane some support. So, be really interesting to see how this develops going forwards. I'd love to hear your thoughts down in the comment section below on this one. Exactly where you think this team is going to end up. Is Panda or Proto going to be the solution going forwards? We will just have to see. In my opinion, I'm not sure it's going to completely work out. I think it should improve the squad to some degree. But if you really want to take it to the next level, you've got to find an absolute gold mine, which could be Panda or Proto, but maybe in the amateur bracket somewhere, there's a player that could make this squad championship contending, because a lot of the pieces are already there, just weren't put together in the right spot. Thanks for watching as always. I'll see you next time.